So this was a Christmas present that I got from my mom. And Maisey Yates is one of my all-time favorite authors. We went Christmas shopping. I happened to see this book out at Walmart, and I picked it up immediately. And it's called The Hero of Hope Springs, the Gold Valley novel. Will Gold Valley's most honorable cowboy finally claim the woman he's always wanted? For as long as brooding cowboy Ryder Daniels has known Sammy Marshall, she's been his sunshine. Her free spirit and bright smile saved him after the devastating loss of his parents and gave him the strength to care for his orphaned family. Only Ryder knows how vulnerable Sammy is, so he's kept his attraction for his best friend under wraps for years. But what Sammy's asking for now might be a step too far. Something has been missing from Sammy's life, and she thinks she knows what it is. Deciding she wants a baby is easy. Realizing she wants her best friend to be the father, well, that's complicated. Especially when a new heat between them sparks to new life. When Sammy discovers she's pregnant, Ryder makes it clear that he wants it all. But having suffered the fallout of her parents' disastrous relationship, Sammy is wary of letting Ryder too close. This cowboy will have to prove he's proposing out of more than just honor. And I love this book. I just wish we had the ending, I think, could have been tweaked a little better. Just saying. As always, though, an outstanding read, Maisey. And what really caught my eye was after I opened the cover up, turned the page, that has all this saying of the book and her name, was the dedication. Now let me read this dedication to you. For the caregivers. You might not be thanked for what you do every day, and sometimes you might be taken for granted. But what you do matters. You matter. Thank you, Maisey. The Hero of Hope Springs. Let's see, where did I start marking the book? Oh, that's right, Chapter 5, page 65. Let's see here. So, let me give you a little bit of rundown before we start in on the book, because I'm surprised I didn't mark some of the first pages of the book. She has come to her friends and him and said that she wants to have a baby. And so Ryder has came up with this idea. He's going to help Sammy find a daddy who will be appropriate to be a good dad to this baby that she wants to have. The next day, Ryder was in a foul mood. He had taken the foul mood out on Sammy last night, and even though she had been the cause of it, he felt guilty about it even now. It made him even angrier, which is why he was chopping wood with enough force to split a concrete pylon. Settle down there, Logan said, wandering up slowly, his laconic movements only serving to amp up Ryder's irritation. His friend was so damn laid back, the kind of guy that people called for a good time and an easy time, something Ryder would never be, except that he was a cowboy, and that was the furthest thing from a hippie as possible. Logan probably had more in common with Sammy than Ryder had with either of them. We don't have all the luxury of wandering around life waiting for things to be handed to us. Some of us have to put in a little elbow grease. Oh, yeah, Logan said. I'm from the real charm background. In fact, I think I might be the same one that you're from. Still, Ryder growled. Yeah, I mean, when my mom died, she did leave me a ranch, so, can I help you? I just wanted to talk to you about what happened last night. Why did I have a feeling that you would? Does she know that you're in love with her? Ryder stopped, and the muscles in his shoulders suddenly went tense, and he noticed that he was grinding his teeth. He stopped. What? Sammy, does she know that you're in love with her? I am not in love with her, Ryder said. Sure. His friend looked at him far too deep, far too sharp. It made him remember that Logan was the only one who ever seen him break. 6 months after his parents' death, he lost it, gotten drunk out in the barn and broken down. With Logan there only as the witness, and a drunk one, but a witness all the same. I'm not supposed to be here, he said. I was supposed to be 1,000 miles from here in college playing football. I wasn't supposed to be everyone's dad. The responsibility, all that he'd given up, it had hit him like a ton of bricks. His grief had finally cleared enough for him to see right where he was, and it had been hell. Logan had gotten through to him at that moment. Logan had seen the weakest part of him. It wasn't that long that Sammy had shown up, and If not for her, well, he'd have been sure to break down again. That didn't mean Logan was right about this, though. I'm not. I don't want anything to do with that. Marriage and kids and all that, it's just not for me. His feelings for Sammy weren't marriage and kids feelings. It was nothing like his mom and dad. It was all twisted up in a trauma that he'd gone through back then, the place he'd been when she come into his life, and the violence that he saved her from. His connection with her was feral, raw, and too intense. He channeled it into protecting her because that was the safest for both of them. What he felt for Sammy was all encompassing. It was part of every breath he took, but it damn sure wasn't love. Right, that's when you're still here in this house, doing the same thing that you always done because the domestic life just isn't you. Running a ranch on my own terms is not the same as being answerable to a wife and kids. It's not the same as having to take care of a pack of wild brats when you're trying to graduate from high school. Look, Logan said, I'm not pretending to have any idea what you went through when it all happened. The same basic thing you did. Logan shook his head. No, you know that's not true. You know it's not. We all lost the same, but you took care of us, and I get this, that there's a thing, but I also can see that Sammy means a lot to you. She does, he said, firming his jaw, basically everything, but that doesn't change the reality of who I am or what I want. What you want, or what you're scared of. I ain't scared of crap. He swung his axe down for the wood again, and the sound of splitting it in the air. Logan chuckled. So you're just going to help her find a guy to have a baby with? It was either that or she was going to leave. Logan shook his head. Well, maybe she needs to leave. Ryder stopped, giving his friend an icy glare. None of this is your business. Logan shrugged a shoulder. I don't care. Don't you have work to do? You know you can let other people help you sometimes. Have you offered any help? I'm standing out here cutting wood by myself. I'm pointing something out to you that you should maybe pay attention to. That you think I'm in love with Sammy, in love, that wasn't the right word for what he felt for her. He didn't like what he felt for her. He never really had, because it was too big to breathe around and he resented it. Because after his parents had died, he'd been stripped of something essential, and in some ways it felt like Sammy had given it back to him. But it was on loan, and he was very, very aware of that. And if she removed herself, she would remove that too. And here he would be right back where he started, hollowed out. Yeah, Logan said. Ryder shook his head. I am not. I care about her. You want her. That was the most disturbing thing that he had said. And that was the truth of it, because of course he did love her. He just didn't consider that the same thing of being in love. But he cared for his entire family. Saying that there was no love involved would be stupid. He didn't stay here and work his land, didn't stay near everybody because he felt neutral about them. Wanting Sammy felt like hell. It thought that she was beautiful, thought looking at her sometimes hurt, but him putting his hands on her, no way. That was cursing in a church, treading on a sacred ground in muddy boots. He would not touch her. So you'll let someone else do it? He gritted his teeth and positioned another piece of wood for splitting. Hey, Logan said, maybe I'm wrong. You're wrong, Ryder said. Because being in love with somebody was domestic and sweet. Being it was bright, shining memory from his childhood, the way his parents had been with each other, the way they had complimented each other. It was certainly not sharp, strange thing that he felt for Sammy, an overwhelming sense of needing to protect her, of needing to hang on to her. He was everything that she avoided, and he knew it. It was a relief in some ways that she tended to gravitate toward men that were different than he was, because it made feelings for her clear early on. Yeah, he supposed he could see where his feelings could have gone off in that direction that Logan was talking about. Yeah, if things were different, if life was different, if he was different, he could have easily fallen in love with that bright, free-spirited beauty. If he had been a different person with a different life, a man whose insides hadn't been crushed, compressed until they were gone into a hard granite, tested by loss and by the deep burden of responsibility that had been placed on him at an age of 18. And the first time he'd ever seen her curled up in his barn, he thought that she was beautiful and luminous and bright and a beacon of something, hope, a light on a hill. And yeah, he thought about kissing her, but then he had started to realize that something wasn't right about the place she lived. That something in her life was broken. Some nights she would climb through to his bedroom window without a word, get into bed with him, and at first he felt tempted to, kiss her head to see where else it might go, but then he started to realize that she was afraid. And then that was when she curled up against his body. She was trembling like a leaf. And he known that he could never. And that she would get in bed with him that showed that she trusted him. And he would never, ever do anything to break that trust or violate it. She was vulnerable, and she believed that he would protect her. He didn't know why. He didn't know why that she chose to come there. why she had decided to come to him, but she had. And then that night, when he hadn't been expecting her, she had come, and he had just known something was wrong. He felt sick in his gut about it, and he found out her father had been pounding on her with his fists in her little trailer, and she slept on the edge of her parents' property. And Ryder had seen red, and everything had made sense. That fear in her, that vulnerability, a man she was supposed to trust, and had treated her with violence. She trusted Ryder to protect her, and that day he had, physically. After that, she moved the camper to Hope Springs. Sometimes she's still gotten in bed with him, and it had been easy enough to take that thing inside him that had wanted her, that felt sort of ravenous for her, and harden it. Turn it to a cold, dark obsidian, sharp and unyielding, but to put it between her and all the rest of the world. Because he had that experience enough with hardening the soft and weak things inside him, because he had to do it that day that his parents had died, because denying the things that he wanted had become second nature, and so he'd simply done it with Sammy. The idea of taking that, changing it now, was unthinkable. It's not like that, Ryder said. It's not. All right, I mean, aren't you worried that she's going to do something stupid? Yeah, Ryder said, I worry about that with all of you. All the time, except for Iris. I don't really have to worry about her. You don't have to worry about me either, Logan said. You know, since I'm 33 years old. Yeah, Ryder said. Old habits. We're the same age now, Logan said, so to speak. And I know it's hard for you to take that on board, but we are. That isn't how this works, Ryder. It just isn't. It can't be if you want it to be. Seriously, Logan, did you want something? Unclench, he said. Really? Yes, I mean, these things are settled now. Pansy's getting married, and you don't have to hate the guy, which means it seems ideal, really. I don't know that I would have chosen him. Still, the idea that his sister was old enough to get married was, well, since the entire thing seemed unappealing to him, it was difficult to wrap his head around all of it. Pansy was the most like him out of the family. She was straight as an arrow, somewhat serious, committed to doing the right thing, and there was nothing wrong with her getting married to Wes Caldwell. It made him feel slightly abandoned, and that was just plain stupid. So maybe he had an issue with change. It wasn't like that way that he was treating the whole thing about Sammy could disapprove, quite the opposite. But there had been so many years of struggle, just so many, and it was so bad to want something settled for years that just feeling good. I tell you what, Ryder said, you do your job, I'll do mine, which is raising hamburger, Ryder said. Neither of us need to give the other life advice. All right, Logan said, fair enough. What about you, Ryder asked. Are you ever going to get married? Logan chuckled. I can't see it in my future. All right, so why are you harassing me about it? Because you're the best of us, he said, not me. It's not even close. He shook his head. Look, if anybody deserves normal, it's you. That ship sailed a long time ago. We were never going to get normal, not after all that. That's a damn shame. We have this place. Seems that it's good enough. He looked around, took in the cloudless blue sky that was so clear it created hazy sunspots in front of his eyes, at the jagged green mountains capped with pine trees and rolling expanses of fields all around him. Hope Springs Ranch. There had been that moment in his life when it all felt like hope was dead, and it felt like this place had his name as an albatross around his neck. But gradually he'd gotten used to the weight, and he began to find hope buried there. The salvation, it had sustained him, his siblings, his cousins, his friend Logan, and Sammy. It would continue to do so. He would be certain of that. Okay, we're going forward a few pages here. I'll do that, Sammy. I'll be the father of your baby. Yep, that's right. Ryder says he's going to be the father of the baby. Sammy wanted her stayed, predictable friend back. He had said nothing but absolutely out of character from the moment they had stepped out into the bar tonight, from pushing her on the subject of favors to do this. She couldn't actually believe that he was there. No way, he was just lying. She just asked him because she'd known he'd back down, because she'd been desperate to reclaim the natural order of things. But he hadn't backed down. Football had been playing on the bar TV, and he hadn't looked at it once. He'd been looking right at her. Him. You don't want children, she said. She looked up at him, all handsome lines, angles, and basically every dangerous fantasy a girl ever had wrapped around her heart and the soul of a really good guy, and she could suddenly think of no better man to father her child. Honestly, it wasn't like it was a revelation that Ryder would be the best one. It was just that she hadn't considered it. She hadn't considered it because she knew that it was something he didn't want to be a part of. Because she knew that there was messy, and there would be that kind of messy that was so tangled up that you would never be able to unknot it. She and Ryder sharing a child was, well, that just wouldn't work. It was one thing to think about having some kind of casual arrangement with a man in town, one who would give an occasional visit and even support one who had kind of added to the casual expanded family that was created at Hope Springs, but she lived with Ryder practically, and how could they do a distance thing in that sense? How could they not be involved? She supposed it was possible that he could act as a favorite uncle, but as for the conception, she wasn't going to think about that. She was not going to think about the fact that she'd just seen him wander through the bedroom in a towel either. That wasn't going to think about any of that, because that had nothing to do with the actual reality of what he was proposing, and it wasn't going to happen either way. I'm not letting you fall on your sword for me. Who said I was falling on my sword? Because I know you. You're trying to rescue me. You're desperately trying to rescue me, and you're offering yourself up in an entirely impractical way in order to do that. I didn't say that it wouldn't become without conditions. What kind? I mean, honestly, how would you even that work? You don't want kids because you've already been there, done that. You don't want the unconventional, and I am very essence of unconventional, which is fine for friendship, but how could we ever share a child? It wouldn't be unconventional, he said. How is it going to be not unconditional? Unconventional, because I'll be the father of your baby. You'll be my wife, and we'll have a family. Have you lost your mind? She asked. That is nothing like what I was proposing for this whole situation. And it's the only way I can see to make this work. I mean, with me as the father. I didn't say I wanted you to be the father. And anyway, why would it have to be that way if you were the father? Why couldn't we live together on the property and you could take some kind of secondary role, like a favorite uncle? You are out of your damn mind, lady. That is not how I would do it. But you don't want children. And I don't do halfway. I can't and I won't. I'm an all for nothing, and you know it. If we were to have a baby, it would be everything. You are like an old man, she said, doing her best to beat back that little crazy what if that was rattling around inside her chest. You raised your kids. They went out on their own. You work your land. You read the paper in the morning, and you watch 60 Minutes at night before you go to sleep very early. So what? I'm stable. And you're done, and I'm not. I'm not an old man. I'm very well aware it's called opposites complement each other, Sammy. I thought you would know that. Something about that. No, just no. Why not? Because I don't want to get married because I can't be married to you, she pushed. And why is that? His eyes were so steady that she wanted to say yes, that she just wanted to lean into him, and no, she could not do that. Because it would ruin everything. I'm not going to become this crazy ball and chain that you shackled yourself to because you didn't approve of the way I was doing something. It's nuts. Even you have to acknowledge that. I don't have to acknowledge a damn thing. No, and I don't want to do it. If you want to do this my way, then I mean, of course, I can't think of a better person, a better man, but we're not. I'm not trapping you into 18 years of your life that you don't even want. You marry me and you'll get health insurance and I'll have it on the farm through the farm union. Oh my gosh, are you genuinely proposing that we have a marriage of convenience and a baby? And suddenly it didn't seem crazy. For a moment it didn't seem crazy at all. It seemed unbearably tempting. But then the reality came to a rescue. Sense came to the rescue because she knew she didn't want this. She didn't, not even a little bit. There was a reason that she gravitated toward the men that were so different than Ryder. There was a reason that she opposed to marriage at all. There was a reason that she wanted to keep control of her life and her child. And it wasn't because she didn't trust Ryder. That wasn't it. It was just to trap him in a relationship that he didn't even want anyway. He would never hurt her. She knew that. It wasn't that she thought he might be violent like her father. She had lived in an oppressive cloud of two people who weren't in love, living in the same house. She had seen it firsthand what it did to people. She didn't want it, couldn't stand it. I can't do that to you, to us, to me. You'd rather have a baby with someone you don't even know. Yes, she said, that's the point, except suddenly that didn't seem as appealing as having his baby, except why do you have to be so uncompromising? Why can't we just figure out maybe a different way to do this? Why does we have to do it your way? Because it's going to have to be my way if we do it. I can't be unconventional. You said it yourself. Yeah, but you can dig yourself in and be miserable. You're good at that. I won't be the reason that you are. She turned and walked away from him, his anger bubbling up inside her, and yet she knew that he wouldn't follow her, not when she was in such an irritated state with him. She went over to the bar and signaled for Laz. Hi, she said. Hi, he responded, flashing her a grin. He was a very good-looking man in a genetic sense, and he would make a fantastic father for the baby. And suddenly her own thoughts seemed so ridiculously insane to her, and Ryder seemed less crazy, that she hated that. She pushed hard against it, hard. Can I get another beer? Sure, he responded. He gave her a look and that far too canny. Are you trying to make him mad? What makes you ask? She flipped her hair over her shoulder. Because I know when the woman is trying to make another man jealous. I'm not stupid. She huffed and scoffed and then huffed again. and realized that there was one back of the throat noise too many to be wholly believable. "He's just my friend," she said. On page 99, I'm trying to see where I have this marked to. We're going to stop there for tonight and start tomorrow at page 99. But we got a good start on this book. Nothing to be ashamed about. I wanted to get a good start on the book. We've gotten some magazines. Well, one magazine completely done. We have another magazine to go and half a magazine. So we've got a lot to look forward to this week, folks, but we're making good progress. Thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that you're keeping your social distance. You're washing your hands. When you can't wash your hands, you're using your hand sanitizer. You're using your mask. And I wish nothing but the very best for each and every one of you. May you have hope, faith, joy, and love in your heart, much prosperity in your bank as well as your heart. Remember, it's better to give than it is to receive. God bless you. Thank you for being in my community and watching my videos. Love all of you. God bless.